Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're taking a focused look at a company called MP Materials. You sent over some really interesting info on them, and our goal really is to unpack what it all means for you, our listeners.
That's right. We've got three main documents here. One's a pretty detailed snapshot of MP Materials as of today, April 17th, 2025. It covers their business, recent performance, future outlook, the usual.
Okay.
Then there's a more recent update, mostly looking at stock price moves and, market sentiment.
Right, the buzz.
And the last one is, well, it's a full due diligence report. Goes deep into financials, industry position, risks,
Yeah.
the whole nine yards.
So the idea for you, the learner, is to quickly grab the key stuff without feeling, totally overwhelmed, hopefully understand what's important, maybe have a few aha moments along the way. So let's kick things off, the basics. What exactly is MP Materials? What do they do?
Okay, fundamentally, MP Materials is, and this is key, the only fully integrated rare earth producer in the U.S.
Only one, okay.
Yeah. They operate the Mountain Pass mine that's out in California. But what really makes them stand out is they handle the whole supply chain.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, not just digging it up. They refine the raw stuff into rare earth oxides and metals, and they're even getting into manufacturing advanced permanent magnets.
Ah, the ND-Febi magnets.
Those are the ones. Neodymium iron boron magnets.
Okay, let's pause there. ND-Febi magnets. Sounds technical. Why should we care about those specifically?
Well, because these magnets are absolutely critical for a ton of modern tech. I mean, think electric vehicles,
Right, EVs.
robotics, defense applications, aerospace, wind turbines for renewable energy, even just the everyday electronics we use. They're kind of crucial.
So it's not just about the raw dirt, it's about making the high-tech components from that dirt.
Exactly.
Cool.
And the big picture goal, as I understand it, for the materials is really about building up a domestic supply chain for all this.
Restoring American leadership, maybe?
In this area? That seems to be the core mission, yes. Now, thinking about what they've actually done recently, what jumped out at you?
Well, a couple of things. Back in January this year, 2025, they started commercial production of NdPr metal.
Neodymium, praseodymium.
Right, at their place in Texas. That felt like a pretty big step towards that end-to-end chain you mentioned.
It absolutely is. And building right on that, they've also started trial production of automotive-grade sintered NdFebi magnets, also in Texas.
Trial production, okay.
Yeah, and the report really hammers this home. It's the first time in decades these specific magnets are being made stateside. That's a major milestone for domestic capability.
Definitely sounds significant. And we should probably mention their Q1 results are coming up soon, right?
May 8th?
Yep, May 8th. That'll be a key date for sure. Give us a fresh look at the number. The info we have also points to some strong production figures from late last year, 2024. Record upstream production at Mountain Pass. What was it? Over 45,000 metric tons of rare earth oxides.
And record midstream production, too. About 1,300 metric tons of that NdPr oxide. So the front end seems to be running well.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But let's dig into the financials a bit more. Production is one thing, but how's the bottom line looking?
Good question. So the latest Q1 figures are still pending, like we said, but we do have full year 2024 data. Revenue was around $203.9 million. That was actually down from 2023, which was about $253.4 million.
Down, even with record production.
Yeah. The main reason cited was lower prices for the rare earths, even though they sold more volume. It's that commodity price exposure. Interestingly, though, Q4 2024 actually showed a positive trend. Revenue was up 48% compared to the previous year's Q4. Mostly driven by better sales in their materials segment.
Okay, so revenue is a bit of a mixed picture then. What about profitability? That's usually what investors really focus on, isn't it?
It usually is. And here, well, for the full year 2024, earnings per share, EPS, was negative, minus 87.50.
Oof.
Compared to a positive $0.14 in 2023. So quite a swing. And Q4 EPS also missed expectations.
Okay.
And looking at adjusted EBITDA, that was also negative for the full year, around minus $50 million.
Minus 50. Wow, compared to positive 102 million the year before.
Exactly, a big drop. It suggests, cash flow challenges, partly from investing heavily in that Texas expansion, partly inventory costs. There was even a $21 million inventory write-down mentioned.
Right, I saw that. And that negative EBITDA margin in Q4, minus 12%, that doesn't look great. I think I saw some commentary, maybe Kramer, saying they really need to hit profitability this year.
That's definitely been highlighted, yeah. The pressure's on for profitability.
Ah.
But it's worth balancing that by noting their liquidity seems solid. They had around $282 million in cash at the end of 2024.
Okay, so they have some runway, some cushion.
Seems like it.
Right.
They have flexibility, but yeah, the focus is shifting towards making those big investments pay off on the bottom line.
So given those, let's call them financial headwinds,
Mhm.
what are the core strengths? What makes MP Materials compelling despite those numbers?
I think number one is still that unique position. The only scaled integrated producer in the U.S. That vertical integration is huge.
Reducing reliance on foreign suppliers.
Exactly. Especially now. Plus, their strategic importance.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, clean energy. These are massive growth areas.
Mm-hmm.
And the progress they are making in Texas, even if it's costing money now, shows they're moving towards that full domestic chain. Many see that as vital for national security, too.
Makes sense. On the flip side, then, what are the big risks or challenges, things listeners should really keep an eye on?
Well, success really hinges on scaling up those new downstream operations smoothly, especially the magnet production. Remember, it's still in trial phase.
Right, not full scale yet.
Not yet. They expect a gradual ramp up through late 2025. And like any miner, they're always exposed to commodity price swings.
Can't control the market price.
Nope. And as we just covered, that recent unprofitability, the negative EBITDA, investors are definitely watching that closely. They need to turn that around.
Okay. Now, shifting gears a bit. How's the market reacting to all this? What's the recent stock sentiment?
Well, things got interesting very recently. Just April 16th, 17th, the stock price jumped quite a bit, actually, around 8.4%.
Oh, really? To what level?
Reached about $27.17. And trading volume was really high, too. Lots of interest suddenly.
Any idea what sparked that?
The timing points pretty strongly towards geopolitics. There were reports about China maybe suspending some rare earth exports.
And that would benefit a domestic supplier like MP.
That's the likely connection, yeah.
Yeah.
Creates potential supply issues elsewhere, makes a U.S. source look more attractive, more secure.
Got it. And what are the analysts saying overall?
Generally, the consensus seems to be a moderate buy. Price targets vary, but mostly in the $23 to $32 range. D.A. Davidson, notably, just raised their target to $32.
So generally positive from analysts, leaning towards upside potential. What about chatter online, social media, forums?
You definitely see that bullishness reflected there tied to the stock jump and those geopolitical factors.
But I sense a but.
But there's also caution. People remember the recent losses, the negative EBITDAs. So questions remain about whether these gains are sustainable long-term or just a reaction to temporary news.
Right. Now, zooming onto the industry, who are the big competitors MP is up against globally?
The main ones mentioned are China Northern Rare Earth Group, that's a giant, and Lynas Corporation, out of Australia.
Big players. How does MP stack up against them? What's their edge if they have one against giants like that?
Well, those guys definitely dominate global supply. But MP's specific strength is that full domestic integration, focused on the U.S. market.
Being the only game in town, stateside.
Essentially, yeah, for that whole integrated process. In the current climate, with supply chain security being such a hot topic for government and industry, that's a pretty unique selling point, isn't it?
It certainly seems like it could be. Okay, so looking ahead, what are the absolute key things our listeners should watch for with MP Materials?
Number one, absolutely watch that Q1 earnings release on May 8th. That's critical for gauging financial progress.
See if profitability is improving.
Exactly. Also, keep tracking the ramp up at the Independence plant in Texas. Are they hitting milestones? Any news on supply agreements?
Like with automakers. GM was mentioned.
Right. A big contract like that would be huge. Ultimately, it comes down to, can they improve profitability and manage the risks of scaling up these new complex operations? That's what to watch.
So, summing up then, it's a focused look at MP Materials. What really stands out, I think, is that unique position in a super strategic industry and the ambitious steps they're taking to build out that whole domestic rare earth supply chain.
Definitely. And the recent stock surge, the analyst sentiment, it suggests the market is starting to recognize that potential. But like we said, the pressure is definitely on to deliver profits. That earnings call is going to be very telling.
It really is a fascinating company sitting right at that intersection of critical minerals, clean energy, national security. Definitely a space to keep watching. Hopefully this gave everyone a clearer picture.
And, something interesting to think about beyond just MP is how broader shifts in global trade policy might ripple through this whole market. It's complex, with big implications everywhere.
Absolutely. A lot to consider. If you found this useful, please do subscribe, like the video, maybe leave us a comment with any other questions you have. We always appreciate the engagement.